This part of the tutorial is going to be how you actually connect into the wiring loom using the plug socket supplied by Ron with the RonBox. Basically what you have is a unit here that plugs into that unit there, which connects into the RonBox, and you have two wires which you have to splice into the wiring loom. And there's many ways you can do this. You can either tap in close to the ECU, or as suggested in Ron's instructions, what you can do is tap in to the loom down here. I'm not really a big fan of chopping into wiring looms, and especially areas like this, for many reasons. So what I've done is I've had a real good think about this and thought, how can I sort of modify my thoughts a wee bit to make sure I can sort of get the optimum plug and play system on the unit. So if I sell it, I can just simply unplug it and away it's go without splicing and chopping into wiring looms and things like that. So what I've done is I've carefully analysed the plug, and this is the plug that actually feeds the fuel pump, and that actually plugs into this plug here. And these are the wires that are colour coded. The ones on the end of here aren't colour coded, but like I said earlier on in the first video, what you can do is orientate the plug and tie in the pins here with the actual wire colours here, and it's really quite easy to do. And then what I've thought then is how can I connect these two wires into this unit without actually splicing and chopping wires and soldering and things like that, although there will be a little bit of soldering. And when you carefully analyse this plug, you can quite clearly see inside it has the spade connections, but inside there it's sealed. Just orientate this a little bit with these rubber grommets here, and then you can actually see through this perspex here the actual blades that run through. So I thought to myself, well, if I can actually connect these wires to these blades inside here through the rubber grommets, I would get the seal, and also I wouldn't have to splice into the loom. So the challenge for me was how am I actually going to do that? And these rubber grommets are quite sealed units, and when I talk about my solution now and how I see it working, and I'll trial it, I mean proof in concept, I'll trial it in the field to see if it works. Ron's probably going to think, man, you're crazy coming up with an idea like this, but the short point is I think it will work. I've tested it with the continuity meter. It doesn't involve me chopping into the wiring loom, but it also does involve a bit of soldering and things like that, and getting a really good connection inside here without sort of chopping into Land Rover's looms and things. So what I'm going to do is run through my proof of concept and see if it actually works. Now Ron's probably going to cringe a wee bit here, but this was my idea. What I've done is I've just got a piece of similar gauge wire, which is similar to what Ron supplies on his unit here, to trial it, and I stripped the wire back, and I've actually used a common household needle. And what I did was I stripped the wire back, threaded it through the eye of the needle, coiled the wire all the way down as far as I possibly could on the needle, and then I cleaned it with some good contact cleaner to make sure it was absolutely clean, and then I soldered the wire to the needle and then shrink wrapped the on top of it here to make sure I've got a permanent watertight seal. And all you simply do is, if you look at the rubber grommet at the back here, it's quite sealed, and what you can do with the needle is push it inside the rubber grommet, and literally with a pair of pliers, it takes quite a bit of force, push the needle all the way along, and you can actually see it going through the plug, and it makes contact with the blade all the way along right until it hits the plastic stop at the back. And also the way I've put the shrink wrap on is that it gives it an absolute permanent seal, and it goes in there and that's it. And it literally, to me, that is a plug and play. I've not chopped into the loom. I put my meter on it, my continuity tester meter, and it's good continuity. Tested the resistance of the wire before and after putting the needle in, just to make sure that I didn't get a big resistance to it and it wouldn't affect the signal to the RonBox, and there's absolutely no effect to it whatsoever. So proof of concept is a little bit of a different way of thinking. I think it will work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wire the unit up using this system, and what I'll do is I'll trial and test it. That's all I can do, and if I get any sort of unusual readings or the system's not working, then maybe I'll go back and rethink how I'm going to do it again. So I'll move on with the installation now, and I'll just do a bit of videoing about how I solder the wires and things like that in part 3, and I'll just do a stage by stage installation, and I hope you find it useful.